A convict might have to catch themselves these days, but at least someone's smiling through this crisis. This is the moment William Smith sauntered back to Wandsworth prison, from where he was wrongly released on Monday. Perhaps it felt good that this time someone else was in trouble. No real urgency was apparent from the prison staff, though, as he had to ask how to hand himself in. We can't quite hear the conversation, but he's pointed in the direction of the prison door and waves himself off to start the sentence he should already have been serving. But no sooner was he in than he was back out for a few more puffs of freedom and a smile for the cameras. Nobody's nerves seemed particularly on edge. Then, whenever you're finished, back in he takes himself, throwing the limelight onto the government.
Let me just say how angry and frustrated I am that these mistakes have been made in releasing people. They're intolerable and they shouldn't be made.
William, or Billy Smith, is 35 and British. He was convicted of fraud on Monday, but immediately released after what we're told was a mix-up over his surname. A few days earlier, Brahim Kadur Sharif was also wrongly released from Wandsworth. 24 and Algerian, he'd been convicted of indecent exposure, but apparently the prison didn't have the right warrant to keep him in. He's still being hunted by police and the Justice Secretary.
The truth is, I've been in post 2 months. This is a paper-based system that obviously involves human error. We had 800 errors under the last government. This has now gone on for a generation. Our prison system is in crisis, so we have to bear down on this, but we have a mountain to climb.
It was a more open answer than he gave yesterday.
It's a very specific question for him to answer.
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had.
David Lammy says he didn't reveal details of the releases when repeatedly asked in Parliament because he didn't have all of them.
We had the extraordinary spectacle of a criminal simply sauntering back in, smoking a cigarette, waving to the cameras. These people are making a mockery of our country. They are laughing at the justice system. Labour needs to get a grip and do it right now.
The Labour government had tried to do that after inheriting overcrowded prisons by releasing more inmates early. But this former prison governor thinks that's made mistakes more likely.
Since they came into power, the Labour government has actually made things worse. The early release scheme is putting a lot of increased demands on the officers in the prison because they've got to calculate sentences with this added complication.
As for William Smith, he was out, then in again, one final time today, and this is just the chaos caught on camera. Paul Brand, News at 10.
And Robert's here. Where to start, Robert? What reaction has there been in the Ministry of Justice to these pictures in particular and in Downing Street itself? What are you hearing?
Well, in the words of one senior member of the government, it's been a bad couple of days, which is a sort of understatement. And I mean, you know, just looking at the convicted fraudster, William Smith, sort of waving at the cameras as though he's a sort of thank you and good night from a rock star as he decides to wander back into prison of his own accord. I mean, these are absolutely humiliating images gathered by ITV for the government. Look, the braver face they are putting on it is they have been saying, it is true, actually since they were elected, that the prison system is in absolute crisis. And they think that the general public now sort of get it. I mean, because, you know, what further, you know, what more manifestations you need of that, that, you know, somebody decides to go to prison of his own accord in that kind of sort of nonchalant way. And as David Lammy says, you know, it is astonishing. Record keeping on paper, still, endless mistakes, crumbling buildings, still not enough prison places. I mean, you know, well, it sort of shames the nation, doesn't it?
It's shone the light very directly on it, hasn't it? And there are still very many questions about the wrongly released prisoner still at large, Brahim Kadur Sharif. Not just questions about what happened in letting him go, but the whole process of deportation, which charges he was facing. Where are we at with all of that tonight?
So the thing that, in a way, I found almost as shocking as the fact that he was released when he shouldn't have been, is this was a man who had overstayed his visa. He shouldn't have been in the country. But he had committed a sex crime. He's on the sex offenders register, and yet the authorities, the Home Office, couldn't, they felt, throw him out. So he goes on to commit another crime, trespass with a view to robbery, according to the charges against him. Now, it is literally mind-boggling that you can't get rid of a convicted sex offender. I was talking to a minister about it earlier on today, and this minister was saying, well, no, we're changing the law. The border security bill that's going through Parliament would allow us to get rid of him. I then checked with the Home Office. No, that bill doesn't do that. So they are now talking about reforming, you know, the European Convention on Human Rights, which is this hugely resonant bit of legislation which obviously Reform wants to scrap altogether, the Tories want to scrap altogether. The government is now saying Article 3, which protects essentially asylum seekers and migrants from potential torture or maltreatment if they're exported abroad, it's got to be changed, because otherwise we will be here again with something like a convicted sex offender just being allowed to stay, you know, pretty much for as long as they like.